The scenes here at Mabhida Stadium as the ANC's leadership arrives at the Mabhida Stadium. President Cyril Ramaphosa there, and you can see the chairperson of the ANC in the province of KwaZulu-Natal, Smiso Duma, the deputy president of the ANC, Paul Mashatile, Nkwanyana, the DSG of the party, as well as the second deputy secretary general there, Marupini Ramokgopa. There is, of course, quite a lot to talk about this particular moment as the ANC is launching its national and provincial election manifesto for the election of 2024 that we all know now will be held on the 29th of May. We are still in conversation with Dr. Lubna Navi, senior lecturer in politics Political Science and International Relations at UKZN, as well as my colleague Ayanda Mhlongo, who have been watching these developments for us. Ayanda, perhaps let me bring you in at this particular moment, the importance and the significance of the province of KwaZulu-Natal and why it was this critical moment for the ANC to try and show a strong showing here.
Yeah, this is, as you're saying, Bongo, a very critical and important moment for the ANC. I would imagine that in their discussions they could have chosen any province to host or to hold their manifesto, but there was probably a reason why specifically they chose to hold the manifesto here in KwaZulu-Natal. We'll speak about the numbers in terms of the support that the ANC gets in KwaZulu-Natal, but most importantly, I think we know of the political developments specifically in the province of KwaZulu-Natal. Some of the other bigger political parties setting their sights on KwaZulu-Natal, and of course now with the emergence of Umkhonto weSizwe party, which is linked to former President Jacob Zuma. So this is probably one of the reasons why it necessitated the ANC to come into this province. I mean, we've been hearing them since the morning. You meet members of or leaders of the ANC in the corridors, and the message that they are saying is, we are here to show you that the ANC is still alive. This is going to show you that the ANC is not dead. You heard one of the speakers who was on the stage, or one of the MCs, saying the ANC is here, the ANC is still alive. And this is the message that they've been trying to drum throughout the course of the week, to say that this is going to be a show, to say that the ANC in particular here KwaZulu-Natal, the Secretary of the province of KwaZulu-Natal, Bheki Mtolo, has been stressing that the majority of people that are here are going to be coming from KwaZulu-Natal. Well, I'm not too sure if you look at the buses and the taxis that we've seen outside. But again, I think they wanted to prove that the ANC is still alive and that the ANC is strong in the province of KwaZulu. They know that if you look at the numbers, if you look at the support that the ANC received, if you go back to the 2019 national elections, both KZN and Gauteng combined, majority, at least 50, just under 50% of the votes came from KZN and Gauteng. So that must tell you how important this province is. And so I think for this is going to be a statement for the ANC to say to people who might be doubting the ANC, who might be saying they are losing support and they are losing sort of control and power in KwaZulu-Natal, to say no, we are still strong and we are coming back after this election.
Doc, right at the back of that, because there's a lot of talk even from them about, various leaders of the ANC about how they continue to rely on their loyal supporters on the ground. But how much of that goodwill, 30 years on, can the ANC continue to rely upon, especially when you look at a critical province like KwaZulu-Natal?
Well, absolutely. I think the real issue is how trusting the ANC supporters of the party, and 30 years is a long time, and in this time a lot of things have happened, and this has brought a lot of criticism to the ANC, because the idea of the Rainbow Nation and all of the wonderful things that were supposed to happen, that hasn't really transpired. So there have been a lot of disappointments, but I think that this rally is a show of force. It's about showing that we still have supporters, we can still fill a stadium, we can still get the people on the ground. How many of these individuals will actually go to the voting stations to actually cast their votes is something that we are not sure about, but they're all here to perhaps express their support for the ANC. They've got their t-shirts. Sometimes people just go to a rally for some of the things that they get from the party, but I think the goodwill aspect of it is something that will only be evident at the polls. This is just a sort of gathering of people. It's a kind of showing of support, but the real test is at the polls.
And Ayanda, while we talk about the polls, there's very real issues that happen in the province of KwaZulu-Natal, and not only the province of KwaZulu-Natal, but the entire country. Yet this is a province that has a multiplicity of issues. And I wonder then, also the issue of the rural vote, which we've seen over the course of the years. Is that something that they also need to contend with? Because we're also seeing various political parties as well trying to also look at this important aspect of the voter.
Well, certainly. I mean, we've seen more recently, Bongewe, with this new leadership of the ANC, for example, how before in the build-up to the manifesto, one of the first meetings that they've had is with the Amazulu King, Mrs. to introduce themselves, or basically as a courtesy visit to say, Your Majesty, we are here in the province province, and also then engaging with Amakosi. We've seen them engaging with the chiefs. We've seen them engaging with the traditional leaders, and that then must tell you that it's a way in which they get into the rural vote. They know the influence that the king has. They know the influence that Amakosi have in the areas in which they control. And so we have been seeing a lot more focus by the ANC, by its provincial leaders, as well as its national leaders. I mean, they've been crisscrossing the province, literally, into areas that possibly they've really disregarded before. I mean, the ANC has in the past been very much focused in the cities, I mean, in KZN around 2011, we were still speaking about no-go areas, where there were still some areas where the ANC was not as strong at the northern parts of KwaZulu-Natal. But now we are seeing this greater effort by them moving in, because they realize that that is where the numbers are. And so they need to get to those communities, and they need to try and convince those people. Apart from that, we've also been seeing how they've been on the municipalities that or in the rural areas, challenging those municipalities. If there are issues that are emanating or coming out of those areas, we've been seeing them challenging those mayors, even if there are mayors that are aligned to the ANC. So I think this is all a show for them to try and say, we need to move into rural areas and pay attention to the rural areas. Of course, as you're saying, a number of issues that rural communities are still faced with. I mean, till this day, Bongo, people do not have water, people do not have electricity, people are complaining that they do not have houses. And the fact is, rural communities are, I would say, in our engagement with them, which is often on a daily basis, they're not as demanding, I would say, as people in the cities. And so it's often quite sad when you see that just the basics that rural communities are appealing for or would want, that they're not getting that. But certainly, as you're saying, we are seeing the ANC putting more concerted effort into moving into rural municipalities. We've also seen, I mean, linked to that, how they've handled the royal household matter, issues around the King Misuzulu Kazwelithini. And I think that all needs to speak to how they're focused on sort of penetrating and getting into rural areas to win this crucial rural vote.
And it's quite interesting that you talk about that. And there's a lot of issues as well when you think about municipalities and how they've also been in the coal face of service delivery. They've been representatives number one for the different political parties that are in different municipalities. And when we hear from the Auditor General how dysfunctional things are, how they continue, some of them, to use consultants to even do basic jobs like putting together their financials, and also municipalities in distress as well. But Doc, I'd like us to talk about that. But I do understand that the national chairperson of the ANC, Gwede Mantashe, is already on the podium, and there is, of course, a program that is expected to get underway. Let's listen in for a bit as to what's taking place there.
Having heard what is contained in the manifesto, now all of us, we must be patient. We must be patient and listen carefully. We're going to sing the national anthem. We're going to sing the national anthem. All of us must phakame, obaba bothula isigqoko. Sicula umhobe wesizwe, i-national anthem. Sibe silent, singanqoli, siwunike imbeko umhobe wesizwe. Okay. AU anthem must relax still. Amanda, awethu, comrades, ANC is the leader of society.
Kwedemantashe taking the crowd through the program. This is the aspect of the program where we will see the ANC president delivering the party's election manifesto at the same time as you saw there in the visuals earlier on, the alliance partners who are also on the stage as well. We saw Solima Paila with the SACP there. And Doc, perhaps let me bring you in on that very aspect, because we've also seen the alliance partners, taking a hard line with the party over time, especially when they deliver their messages of support. But how much of that actually translates into real action, from their side, as well as the members and, in some instances, the workers that they would then lead? Or is it all for you, when you're looking at it, just tough talk?
Well, the fact that the alliance is still together tells you something, that obviously the ANC has managed to convince, the SACP and the other alliance partner to stay together. So I think in terms of tough talk, the sort of speeches that have been delivered at previous events from the alliance partners have been very strong, especially from COSATU, this idea that workers have not been treated well and they are really suffering, and that the ANC has to actually make sure that it delivers on its promises to them. And of course there was some exploration by the SACP of potentially contesting the elections on their own. So you can see from those kinds of actions that the alliance partners were saying, look, we are serious about actually what we're saying, and you cannot take us lightly. So a tough talk at one level, but they've also been trying to translate that into trying to convince the ANC to deliver on the promises that it has made, and the alliance is still together. So that's, I think, something that gives you a strong message that they're trying to make it work.
And before I come back to you, Ayanda, one of the issues that, Doc, the alliance partners, particularly COSATU, also raised was the issue of municipalities. Ayanda touching on this even earlier on. And the fact that municipalities are still struggling to pay salaries, that's also quite a big, red flag. And I wonder how much then of the focus also becomes on municipalities right now in the province of KZN, because some of them were ravaged by, floods. They're now faced with disaster situations, and they were already scrambling in some of these parts to try and deliver services.
Yes, some of these municipalities are in a very sad and dire state. So really, they are the coalface, they are the front line that citizens engage with when they need service delivery, when they need answers to their questions. So if the municipality is not working, we have 3 levels: government, national, provincial and local. And the local government level is where the citizens engage the most. So if that is not working, then really your entire system has fallen apart. And we've seen many of our municipalities in KZN really going through a tough time. So the manifesto, the ANC has to speak to the fact that it is going to fix municipalities. One of the problems we've had is the caliber of individuals that are employed in these municipalities. Cadre deployment has been talked about, but really the people that are serving as officials and as functionaries in these municipalities, many of them are not trained. Many of them don't necessarily know how to do their jobs. That's part of the problem. So you need to make sure that you fix that issue so that people who know what they're doing can actually deliver the services that are required.
And Ayanda, when you think about, one of the big issues, as much as people talk about bread and butter issues as well, they also don't forget the issue of corruption. And the president even touching on it again in the State of the Nation address, saying that we will not stop until every person responsible for corruption is being held to account. But we also look back to the State Capture Commission of Inquiry, for example, and look at some of the cases there, and just how people say that things are moving at a snail's pace. And then how much of a big issue is this for the party as it tables its manifesto and trying to get South Africans to believe that it is actually dealing with corruption?
Well, I'd say, Bongiwa, the talk is cheap, as they say. To say one thing, and if there's no action to support that, and this is where people want to see people in the courts. They want to see law enforcement agencies. We've seen some of the cases that have fallen flat. And then again, that's example to say so much money was put into the State Capture Commission. There were teams that were then put together. There were then task teams that were then going to will continue to work on the investigations emanating from the State Capture Commission, and people have not seen that. I mean, how many cases have really reached a point where they have been finalized, where monies have been recouped? Yes, there has been some, but not to the level or to the amount where it would satisfy ordinary members of the public. So it ends up on the ground, and I think, Bongiwe, our interactions really with people, because ultimately today, and as we move towards the election is about people. I think people have really reached a point now where even talking about corruption is something to them that's pointless. They would rather raise issues that are more personal to them. They'd rather speak about their lived experiences. They've sort of detached from trying to hold government accountable and to sort of move and talk about things like corruption, for example. I mean, in our engagements with local communities, we are not getting people saying to us, this is what we want, and we want the government to also deal effectively with corruption. It's taking place in our municipalities. People are not being held accountable. You are hearing officials, Bongiwe, one works in one municipality, they then move on to another municipality, they move on to another municipality, and despite the pleas from watchdogs and people that are following those developments, nothing is happening. But I can tell you, on the ground, people are now reached a point, I think, where to them it's just what will help me, what will put bread on the table for my family, what will ensure that my children get jobs, what will ensure that my grandchildren inherit a better South Africa. And for me, that is what, sadly, the fact that people are no longer wanting to even discuss matters around corruption just shows that they are tired of it. And they've now said, let's just focus on what matters to us, and what matters to us is the bread and butter issues.
And one of the bread and butter issues, Doc, is the issue of load shedding. Yes. South Africans simply tired of all the promises, because in some instances they're speaking with so many different voices to say the problem will be resolved, and then the next day you hear that we do not have a time frame, others saying by X date and all of that. What does that do then to the confidence that South Africans then would have on the ANC?
Well, it actually damages that confidence. I mean, we have seen the fact that the Minister of Electricity has said so many things, and we've waited for, the outcome of that, and he said it will be resolved by such and such date, and that date came and it didn't happen. So when targets are not met, and people are constantly disappointed all the time, you're going to, obviously find that people are not going to believe you any more. And you need electricity in order to run a country. You need power. Jobs depend on it. Incomes depend on it. A functional society cannot function without a proper supply of electricity. Even if you have generators for a short period of time, it's not a good enough solution. So what we actually need is a permanent solution in terms of ensuring that all of the infrastructure that is supposed to generate electricity for us actually functions. And the Minister of Electricity has to deliver on those promises, and not just articulate very nice flowery words, but make sure that those things are actually acted upon. I think there are times when the issue has been so overwhelming that perhaps he's also not been able to manage it, but it is a systemic problem. It is I'm not an engineer, so I can't say to you this is how to fix it, but it seems to me that what you need is to fix the infrastructure nationally, so that there's enough generation of electricity or available factor, whatever the terminology is, to ensure that everyone can get electricity when they need it. It is damaging our society, it is damaging our economy. We cannot continue, we cannot sustain it. If your society collapses, if we reach a stage of blackout, then it's a complete disaster. And we cannot imagine that even happening. So it has to be fixed now in order to ensure that the coming period, whatever damage has been done, we can recoup and we can try and fix it.
And Ayanda, I'm sure for a number of people as well on the ground, the issue of load shedding becoming a problem, but also the infrastructure in and itself, especially when it comes to the provision of water as well. So there's quite a lot of backlogs that they currently have to deal with.
Yeah, certainly. As Doc was saying, Bongo, and in a province like KwaZulu-Natal, you know that we've been set back now 3 times with the 2021 civil unrest and the impact that it had on businesses. And as businesses were just trying to get back on their feet, were then hit by the 2022 floods. And so it's just basically been business and communities in this province have been hit, with one issue after another. And so as you're speaking about load shedding, while it impacts mostly on, as Doc was saying, of course, the entire country, but KZN is also in a very, very dire situation, because you've got businesses that were on the verge of packing up and saying that we aren't guaranteed a safety in this province after what happened during the July unrest. And the government was then pleading with them and begging them to stay. But on top of that, you're saying stay and we ensure that we beef up security and that businesses are safe. We'll work with private security companies. But then if a business is trying to get back up on its feet and it doesn't have electricity and it doesn't have water, it's pointless for those people to be able to continue with businesses. And so what does that mean then for jobs? It means a lot of people, thousands of jobs were lost during the unrest. More jobs are being lost now because of load shedding. So the issues are just being compounded. And unfortunately, if I'm just looking at the people who have come out here today, and most of them that we're even interacting with outside of here are saying that these are the things that they hear and want to appeal to the president to please focus on. KwaZulu-Natal is uniquely placed, and Doc would know and probably attest to this, that it's uniquely placed. We've got 2 ports. It neighbors 2 countries, we neighbor 3 provinces, and so we strategically positioned as a province to be able to draw investment from other countries, from other businesses outside of this country. So the potential is there, but nobody will want to come and invest in a province with so many challenges, and also speak to small businesses as well that are also struggling, and this is where the jobs are created, Bongiwa. So water and electricity are critical.
And Doc, then what does it mean in your own assessment then when you look at the manifesto in 2019, because it was a huge chunk of it was about spurring on the economy so that it creates jobs, so that it creates the space for economic growth?
Well, 5 years later, we can see what the situation is. Our youth are unemployed. Large sectors of the population in general are unemployed. So if your young people who are graduating from universities, for example, cannot actually get employment, what kind of society are we trying to build? So in terms of, the province and certainly in terms of job creation, it is a serious challenge. And if the manifesto in 2019 spoke about, all of these things, and it hasn't really delivered on it 5 years later, where are we going to be in 5 years from now? So I think that we need to judge the ANC on its performance in the last 5 years based on what it said it would do in 2019, and to see whether and how much of that it was able to accomplish. It'll give you a prediction of what it is possibly able to do in the coming years. And of course, notwithstanding all of the challenges that have happened, load shedding, the riots, the floods, etc., but still the government still has to make sure, and the ANC has to make sure that it does deliver on its promises.
And of course, the politics of this province in and itself also coming into sharp focus as well, because you think about the reality that some do say that coalitions are a possibility, as we've seen at local government level and all of that. And I wonder then, what does it then mean for a province like this one? You think about the Inkatha Freedom Party, it wants to reclaim its former glory. The Democratic Alliance wants to make inroads here. And these 2 parties also seem to also have some kind of an arrangement. You then have the EFF that also wants an outright majority in this province. You have the MK party that, performed in a manner that was noticed in Upongolo, in Vryheid. So let's talk about these dynamics then in the context of possible marriages or not in this province.
It's one of the most difficult questions that you ask me, Bongo, because at this point in the province, everything is so up in the air, honestly. If people ask us even about predictions at this point, it's probably one election that has been so difficult for one to even tell which way it's going. Yes, of course, as you were saying, that you have been seeing this pact between the IFP and the Democratic Alliance, and we've seen how they've tested it in the municipalities, where they've been working together in some of the municipalities, and I think it's been working to some extent. Then, of course, you factor in, as you're saying, the EFF, which has sort of been on the fence, working with the ANC, for example, here in the eThekwini Metro. Then the relations between the two parties seem to break away, and then now critically, of course, is going to be the Mkhonto weSizwe party, and we are seeing it make inroads, and this has been evidenced by the by-elections that we saw in the northern parts of KwaZulu-Natal. So at this point, Bongo, I promise you, I think it's one of the most difficult elections to call. Also very interestingly, Bongo, is the fact that parties like the IFP, which, as you've been saying, has been growing quite steadily in the province. Looking at the results of the by-elections. And interestingly, the president of the IFP, when he was asked about sort of closing the door on negotiations, he said, we are open to negotiations with other parties, meaning we are open to negotiations with the ANC, we're open negotiations with the MK party. We also know that the ANC and the IFP have been meeting to try and reconcile. It was a wish of the now late former president of the IFP, Nkosi Mangosuthu Buthelezi, and during when the build-up to his funeral, these leaders committed that they're going to come back and fulfill his wish. So what does that fulfillment of his wish mean? Are we going to see the ANC and the IFP working together if we reach a point where there is a coalition? Again, will the MK party meet with the IFP? Because clearly former President Jacob Zuma has made it clear that he does not want to work with the ANC under the current leadership led by President Cyril Ramaphosa, as well as the leaders here in the province of KwaZulu-Natal. We've also seen, I mean, sometimes you can judge even when EFF speaks and their rhetoric. Not a lot is said to criticize Mkhonto weSizwe party. So you don't know whether or not they're opening up to say that they are a party that we will be able to speak to after the elections. But I can tell you, Bongiwe, if this one has been the most difficult to call, I guess one will just have to wait and see what the outcome of the election is, who gets what, and then who joins forces with who.
And Ayanda, as we saw, before I go back to you, Doc, on screen just a short while ago, Amabutho Neintombi, and one, really then talks about this interesting moment here. Let's describe it for our viewers.
I think it is interesting to see, but you are in KwaZulu-Natal. So I guess it's important to say let's extend that invitation to Amabutho to be part of today. And as you were saying earlier on, Bongo, when you're speaking about the ANC wanting to sort of move into and get that rural vote, this is that rural vote. And so I guess it would have been important for them, if you're going to go to His Majesty the King, to present yourself as a courtesy visit, to say, King Misuzulu Gazwelithini, we are in your province, then invitation then. Of course, the King physically cannot be here, we know, as he has to be obviously remain apolitical, but Amabutho, of course, I think it is an important statement as well to say, as the ANC, we also do have the support of traditional leaders, and we do have the support of the Zulu regiments. And
Doc, Ayanda touched on, former President Jacob Zuma, the MK party as well, and there are some within the leadership of the ANC who say that it's not a big issue for them. He's not a big issue. His MK party is not a big issue. You listen to the Secretary General of the party saying that the matter is now with the courts and all of that. But how much of a factor and a dynamic does this then put into a spin in politics in the province?
Well, I think the emergence of MK really surprised everyone. We knew that the former President Jacob Zuma was not happy with the ANC and, given his experience and so on. But I think that this whole sort of emergence of this party has created a new dynamic, because it is going to take away some votes from the ANC that they would otherwise have got, So that is going to be a concern for all the officials of the party, and they need to manage the situation. So they're obviously trying to downplay it by saying, well, it's just a little something that has happened and we don't need to take it seriously. But in KZN, it does matter. And MK is still a very new party. We haven't really seen the kind of broad leadership and who's who, so to speak, in that space. And once that becomes clear, then we know how serious of a threat it will be to the ANC. For the moment, we just, as you said, wait and watch to see how, because it's very hard to predict. But in, I think, the province of KZN, it will be a factor, not so much in other provinces, but with the IFP, ANC, and now MK dynamic, it creates an interesting sort of context to see who the rural vote is going to go to, who the urban vote is going to go to, and of course this is the kingdom, it's the province of the king, and the royal household and the people who support the king, all of that put together, it actually makes a difference. And if MK can actually sort of speak to those rural voters and those who support the king, then the ANC has some challenge on its hands.
But how would you say they managed this, Prof, Doc? Because one of the things that was very clear is that when former President Jacob Zuma on the 16th of December made his announcement, there was a bit of a, difference of voices on how to manage this particular issue. While nationally, through a bird's eye view, it was being managed the way it was, but here in the province of KwaZulu-Natal, that's where the focus was for most people. So how would you say the ANC in this province has managed that issue?
I think that they have tried to sort of behind the scenes have dialogues and conversations. We're not really very sure on this, so it's very difficult to make a kind of a clearer assessment of it. But I think that the real issue is how it's going to look in the public space. So what they say in the public space has to actually be factual. And before, they can say, okay, this is what the situation is actually in terms of how it's been managed, we have to wait and see how all of the court cases and all those things play themselves out. So it's a bit difficult to make a more definitive kind of statement on that at this point.
And for you, Ayanda?
Well, when this current leadership of the ANC came into power, Bongiwe, you'd remember that's the likes of Smiso, the chairperson, Begim Tolo, the secretary. There were three main issues, I'd say, that they felt they needed to deal with, which they felt their predecessors, that being Sihle Zigalala, Mtumseni and Ntuli, had failed to do. That was to manage issues around the royal family. It was the Shembe, the Nazareth Baptist Church issues, as well as what they called the Jacob Zuma factor. So they came in saying that that was going to be their priority. Unfortunately, as we've seen, in those three, they've struggled. The issues within the monarchy, issues within the Amazulu royal family, which they've not been able to deal with. And of course, also, I guess, to be fair to them, these are legal matters. So I guess at a point, they can't enter into a sort of certain matters to decide for themselves, because they have to allow the courts to be able to deal with that. And specifically, I speak about the royal family, as well as the issues around the succession battle with the Shembe Church, which is also a family matter, which both the Shembe Church needs to deal with internally. Then, of course, came the the Jacob Zuma factor. There's a question I often ask myself, which we've not been able to get an answer, Bongiwe, from the leaders of the ANC in this province, was that former President Jacob Zuma left office at the end of 2017. He was in the province of KwaZulu-Natal, and so the ANC then was able to sort of manage Jacob Zuma. The question is, what then happened? What at this point then led to him deciding that I can no longer, continue to support the ANC? I can no longer support the current president, Cyril Ramaphosa. So, I mean, that's a question that I've asked, that the leaders of ANC in this province have been unable or not willing, I guess, maybe to say they know behind the scenes what was going on. And I think with the Jacob Zuma matter, they've said they tried, they've met with them, they sent some of their senior leaders, the former chairperson and former premier of the province, Willis Mkono, the former chair and premier, Zweli Mkhize, and a number of other senior leaders who they felt were going to be able, at least at that level, to speak with former President Jacob Zuma. And they said despite all their efforts, he was not willing to budge. But I think the question for me will always be, Bongo, what happened and what eventually within the ANC might never get the answer, but what led to former President Jacob Zuma deciding at this point that he was now going to break ties with the ANC.
And Doc, I wonder then, what is your reading into that? Because while he made his statement clear on the 16th of December that there are some reasons, and he's looking at what he calls the ANC of Ramaphosa, and seemingly saying that he's struggling to connect with it, it's not doing what the ANC was formed to do in its formation. But then one asks the question, Kayanda is asking, and in your reading, what would you say was that one moment that pushed him over the edge?
I think so, definitely. I mean, basically, the fact that he was arrested and then, that entire scenario that played itself out, and he feels obviously that he's been not treated well by the ANC. So I think there's a personal element here. Also that, he's obviously been someone who, given the history of the Gupta family, he's being asked to be held accountable for corruption.
Doc, I'm going to ask just to pause for a second there. The president is going to be taking the podium shortly. Let's listen.
Apologies. Manda! Manda! Long live ANC, long live! Long live SABC, long live! Long live Kosatu, long live! Long live Sanko, long live! Achita Mafazi! Yagufa, finish! Raw, Young Lions, raw! Asibonge National Chairperson Comrade Nkwanyana ngokusinikeza leli thuba emzini omkhulu weqhawe lomzabalazo uMoses uMadevu Mabhida sisemzini wakhe sibingelele umongameli kaKhongolose Comrade uMatamela Ramaphosa kwaZulu Natal yakubingelela yakwamukela umongameli wabonile namabutho kaZulu enze njalo sibingelele bonke ubuholi buka ANC Deputy President Mashatile Comrade SG the entire collective ostalo bama provinces nabonobhala bonke neNEC sibingelela ubuholi buka SACP oblidwa uComrade Mapayile sibingelela ubuholi buka Khosatho oblidwa uComrade Zikiswa Losi ubuholi buka SANCO oblidwa uComrade Richard Mkhungo ama-leagues of the ANC sifisa ukusho mongameli ukuthi la ngaphakathi kunomndeni wakaJohn Langalibalele Dube umongameli wokuqala kaKhongolose uzosupporta le manifesto ezolontshwa ngaphakathi mongameli khona umndeni wakaLithuli umndeni oqhamuka kwifamily kaPresident Nebuloret ngaphakathi kwethu umongameli kunomndeni wakaSeme umongameli kaKhongolose ngaphakathi kwethu kunomndeni wakaGumede ozosupporta comrade ngaphakathi kwethu umongameli kunabantwana basendlunkulu abahamba nomntwana ubukhosi bevele ozalo umdlokomvane isile esibuzile ukuzosupporta le manifesto ngaphakathi kwethu kunoPrince Sondezi noPrincess Buyile abevele ebukhosini bamaHlubi Moses Mabhida, the stadium which is iconic, which hosted the World Cup, is another success story of the ANC achievement. Siqoke sona namhlanje mongameli sinibonga njengoKhongolose ukuzoveza umsebenzi osowenziwe mongameli abantu abasha base South Africa bathi nje uma ungakhuluma kakhulu ngodaba lomnotho bazoqhubeka bawuvotela uANC ngoba bayobona umehluko. We preach for the peaceful elections in the province and the entire country as the ANC tend to thrive when there is peace. And we are formed under the bedrock of peace by our founding fathers including amakhosi aseNdlunkulu kwaZulu Natal, isilo sasosuthu King Dunuzulu wekade ingxenye amakholwa asefakazile. Those that think it can't be done must not disturb those that are doing it, which is the ANC. The ANC is changing people's lives. Under the South African, there is change brought by the ANC. We welcome you, Comrade President. Emhlabeni wesilo uDinuzulu, emhlabeni welebe leqamanya amalembe, emhlabeni kaComrade Herigwala, emhlabeni kaMxenge, emhlabeni weLady Smith Black Mambazo, sithi mayihlobe.
The 13th president of the ANC, President number 13, is going to give us the manifesto. We must demystify the theory. It's not the owner of the ANC. It's president number 13. There have been 12 presidents before him. He's president number 13. He's delivering the manifesto on behalf of the National Executive Committee of the ANC. That is the highest decision-making structure of the ANC. Come to umnikazi we-ANC apha. Nakuthiwa i-ANC kaRamaphosa unayo ngupresident wethu. President, sicela wena President usondele. Sicela wena.
Hwang labalela linabesilo. Hwang labalela. Hwang wakhanya eNingizimu Afrika. Inkosi bayithintelela. Inkosi yakithi ikhala kwelaseShawela, yakhala kwelasePalestina, yakhala kwelase-Ukraine. Inkosi yakithi siyayithinta sayinukelela ithemba lakithi eNingizimu Afrika. Uyithemba Matamela, uyithemba Ramaphosa, phakama Khongolose from 1912 to 112. Inkosi yakithi sayithinta sayinukelela. Yini lena ngibone ngo-1994 yingane encane ka-94 ye-New Dawn. Uthi inzwalo iyanyuka, iyakhala, iyanyuka, ithemba lakithi iyakhanya. Mayihlome Matamela, mayihlome Ramaphosa, phambili mongameli wesizwe.
Amandla. Mata. Matimba. Manda. Comrades, Gwede Mantashe,
the National Chairperson of the African National Congress, Comrade Paul Mashatile, the Deputy President of the African National Congress, national officials, and members of the African National Congress National Executive Committee, Comrade Solima Paila, the General Secretary of the South African Communist Party, Comrade Zingi Swalosi, the President of the Congress of South African Unions, COSATU, Comrade Richard Klope, President of SANCO, representatives and leaders of the ANC Veterans League, the ANC Women's League, the ANC Youth League, representatives of the ANC Veterans League, yes, Umkhonto wesizwe Liberation War Veterans, le mkhonto yesizwe yempela, members of the diplomatic corps, leaders from religious sector, the traditional leaders of our people who are here present, comrades and friends, and of course, you all who are here in this stadium in your large numbers, 75,000 and more. Thank you very much for being here. And the people of South Africa. We gather here in eThekwini, in the proud province of KwaZulu-Natal, to launch the Election Manifesto of the African National Congress, leading up to the 2024 national and provincial elections. The province of KZN occupies an important place in the history of South Africa and the struggle for liberation and the ongoing process of transformation. This is the birthplace of the great King Ushaka. It is the birthplace of the first president of the African National Congress, John Langalibalele Dube. It is the birthplace of the most preeminent founder of the African National Congress, Dr. Pixley Kaisa Kaseme, and it is the home of the first African to win and be awarded the Nobel Peace Prize, Chief Albert Lutuli, who was also the president of the African National Congress. eThekwini, where we are, is also the birthplace of Dr. Monty Naika, a freedom fighter and a prominent leader of the Natal Indian Congress and the Congress Alliance. He, together with the ANC President, Dr. A.B. Koma, and Dr. Yusuf Dadu, the leader of the Transvaal Indian Congress, formed the Doctors' Pact on the 9th of March in 1947. This created the momentum for non-racial cooperation and the importance of a strategic alliance that still exists today. KZN, comrades, is also the home of Victoria and Griffiths Mklenge, human rights lawyers who were brutally murdered by the apartheid regime. Umama Victoria Mklenge was a leader of the UDF and the Natal Organization of Women. KZN is also the birthplace of Umama Dorothy Nyembe, a leader of the ANC Women's League, a member of Umkhonto Wesizwe, who led the Natal Women's Revolt and the potato boycott, and was only the second woman after Umama Lillian Ngoyi was elected to the NEC of the ANC 1958. It is also the birthplace of Fatima Meer, an activist, author, and academic who dedicated a life to freedom and justice of our people. Comrades, we meet here in Moses Mabhida Stadium, a gigantic public facility named after one of the most outstanding patriots and preeminent leader of the ANC, the SACP, and the trade union movement. Paying tribute at the funeral of Moses Mabhida in 1986, President O.R. Tambo said, "It is rarely given to a people that they should produce a single person who epitomizes their hopes and expresses their common resolve as Moses Mabhida did." So here, comrades, we are in a place that we call hallowed ground. Being on hallowed ground evokes a sense of reverence. It evokes a sense of sanctity, but it also unleashes energy and strength, the strength that we see here today, the strength that comes, yes, from all around the country. Comrades, as you know, sesikhethe usuku lokhetho olu 29 zikaMeyi, lapho khona impi iyawubonakala ukuthi iyawuphelela phi na, ukuthi kuzawunqoba bani, ngoba seyihlomile kuzawucaca ukuthi eliphi iqembu elizoba liphathe lelizwe ukuya phambili kule minyaka e5 ezayo. As we crisscross our country over the next 3 months, we will explain to millions of our people in their magnificent variety and their diversity, which is characteristic of Moses Mabhida, why the ANC remains the party of choice in the 2024 elections. Aliko elinye iqembu eli-first choice amongst the people of South Africa other than the African National Congress. Ngithi noma ungabheka leyo ballot box uzobona kuphela ukuthi the ANC is the party of choice. Abantu bakithi bazobona ukuthi yiyo kuphela efanele ukuthi ikhethwe. In the past week, we have joined hands with our volunteer wethu on the ground as we have gone around the KZN and as we have been meeting our people. We will continue to return to this province. Sizibonele ngamehlo wethu ukuthi KZN yilo ikhaya le-African National Congress. Abantu balapha e-KZN bayayithanda ikongolosi. Abanye bayathanda noma abathandi. Abantu balapha bathi thina sithanda ukongolosi kuphela. Yes, We will also go to other provinces. Those other provinces are also here today. Our people have traveled from Gauteng. Gauteng is here. The Eastern Cape is here. The Western Cape is here. In Northwest is here. Free State nayo ikhona. Mpumalanga neLimpopo. All of them are saying our provinces are the homes of the ANC. Western Cape yona iyabuya ngoba abantu base-Western Cape babonile ukuthi ANC kuphela ekwazi ukuthi basebenzele. Over the past 30 years, batho bambona South Africa bantse ba hulwa ki ANC bantse bale musebetsi wa hulukisa naha ena bantse bale musebetsi ya ho aha South Africa entjha. Musebetsi ona ke musebetsi o re tsebang hantle hore ditaelo tsa ona di hlaha ho Freedom Charter. Freedom Charter yena tokomana yena e ileng ya ngolwa ke baetapele ba rona ka 1955. Our country has indeed come a long way. We have made incredible strides and achieved a lot in the past 30 years. Babang bari ahona letho le entsweng ka dilemo tsena tse mashome a mararo. Ba tseba hore ahona nnete ho ntho e ba e buang ehlile ba bua maka fela. Ahona nnete mo ntho e ba e buang. However, even after 30 years of freedom and democracy, our journey towards creating the South Africa that our people truly desire is far from over. We still have many more hills to climb. As Utata Mabhida said in his book, The Long Walk to Freedom, we will climb those hills together. We will climb those hills, leaving no one behind. In the 2024 elections, we will go beyond celebrating our accomplishments of the past 30 years. We will be focusing on the future of our people. We will focus on 6 priorities which are critical to transforming the economy and creating jobs. Our jobs plan, building our industries to include an inclusive economy. We will tackle the high cost of living. We will also invest in our people. We will defend democracy and advance freedom, and we will continue to build a better Africa and a better world. By renewing the mandate of the ANC, we will build on the foundations of the 30 years of freedom and continue the journey to the next 30 years to build a better life and opportunities for current and future generations. Uma nisibona sinje asibhekanga kuphela leminyaka e5 ezayo, sibheke enye iminyaka e30. iANC ibhekela phambili, asibheki kuphela kule 5 ezayo. And together, we will work together to do much more. But celebrating the 30 years of democracy together, our nation and the millions of people across the world who supported our liberation struggle will, together with us, on the 27th of April, celebrate 30 years of freedom in South Africa this year. It is important to reflect on the significant progress and achievements that have shaped our nation's journey towards a more inclusive and equitable society. Since the democratic transition to democracy in 1994, South Africa has indeed made progress in a number of areas. Firstly, we have a constitutional democracy. And comrades, it's a democracy that works. Asi democracy ya mkokotelo, ki democracy ya nnete, ki democracy e sebetsang. Not many countries in the world can boast of the type of democracy that we have. This democracy has been able to demonstrate its resilience, its stability, and its strength over the 30 years. The first democratic elections of 1994 was a turning point in our country's history, demonstrating our shared commitment to nation building, to freedom, to social justice, and to the respect for human rights and democracy. Together we ended centuries of colonial and apartheid rule. We ended 342 years of colonial rule, misrule, oppression, dispossession, and everything that you can imagine that was horrible. We established a new South Africa founded on the most progressive constitution in the world, which guarantees equal freedoms, the rights of all. Today we have vibrant democratic institutions, a free media, an independent judiciary, an active civil society, regular, free and fair elections, and the respect of rule of law. South Africa has also integrated, yes, the institution of traditional leadership that was subjugated and marginalized by colonialism and apartheid over many generations. And over this period, we have accorded recognition to our kings, the kings of our people, the kings of our nation. We've also accorded recognition to a queen. We've established 880 traditional councils in rural areas. We've formed the National House of Traditional Leaders, and we have accorded our traditional leaders their rightful place so that they can play a key role in social cohesion and nation building. Secondly, we celebrate 30 years of nation building. Apartheid sought to divide us by race, by nationality, by ethnicity, and gender. A democratic South Africa came in to unite us in our diversity and to build a common national identity. That is something we must celebrate. Despite persistence of racism and sexism and inequality and poverty, our nation has steered through the pain of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. We've celebrated the achievements of our sporting and cultural heroes. We've debated and expressed our opinions on transformation policies and programs. Yes, we have agonized over gender-based violence and femicide, and we have emerged resilient from the devastating impact of COVID-19 and the HIV/AIDS pandemic. We have made progress in bringing together our people from diverse backgrounds to work towards a common vision of a united, democratic, non-racial, non-sexist, and more equal South Africa. Yes, comrades, we have worked hard to transform the socio-economic conditions of the majority of South Africans. Our journey to build social cohesion, social solidarity, and nation building must therefore continue. And yes, over the 30 years, we have also been able to meet the basic needs of our people. President Nelson Mandela, at his first State of the Nation address in 1994, announced the RDP priorities, and he said there shall be free health care for pregnant women and children under 5. There shall be free housing for the poor and a massive rollout of water, sanitation, electricity for those previously excluded. Our first democratically elected president emphasized the protection of workers' rights, as well as the focus on the rights of women, young people, people with disability, children, and older people. 30 years later, South Africa has achieved remarkable progress in providing a social wage and a universal basic service architecture across the country. Yes, 60% of our budget is directed at improving the lives of our people. I don't know of many countries in the world that dedicate 60% hinkwayo for 60% leya budget ya hina at a national level. Itirela vanhu kwendla kuri vutomi bya vona vuya mahlweni hi ndlela ya kahle. We will do more to consolidate and advance and modernize our basic services so as to leave no one behind. Where there are services that are lacking at the moment, it is only the ANC that has the knowledge, the experience, and the capability to be able to extend those services, because we have done so over the past 30 years. Fourthly, we celebrate 30 years of economic transformation. Despite persisting challenges, we made progress in economic transformation with the initiatives to promote job creation, infrastructure development, broadening economic opportunities and investment. Our economy in size has, since 1994, has grown 3 times, and the rate of poverty has also decreased, it has come down. Yes, while unemployment has remained high, the number of people in employment has more than doubled from 8 million to 16.7 million today. Many people who had been excluded from playing a key role in the economy, including workers, the middle strata, young people, women, and people with disabilities, are now actively participating. Yet there are still too many South Africans who are unemployed, too many people who live in poverty and who do not have enough income. Economic transformation, therefore, remains the foremost task. Fifthly, we celebrate 30 years of better education and health care for all. The ANC has vastly improved access to education and health, transforming the lives of millions of South Africans. South Africans today are more educated. Apartheid Bantu education was meant to ensure that black people in our country are not educated. It was meant to ensure that we stay uneducated. But the African National Congress-led government has opened the doors of learning. And today, our children and young people are in school. They are learning. And many South Africans have become educated. And many more South Africans are healthier. Our children go to preschool schools. They go to colleges and universities. There's been massive increase in the non-racial educational institution. Many of them are fee-free schools. We will continue to improve education and health outcomes to overcome inequality. The lives of many South Africans have truly been improved, and we can say with certainty that there is hardly any place in South Africa, ayikho indawo lapha eSouth Africa engathi ayibonanga intuthuko elethwe yi-African National Congress. Lelo iqiniso eliphelele. Kuyabonakala endaweni eziningi. The lives of South Africans have improved. There are admittedly many tinswalos in South Africa today than there were before democracy. Langihamba khona ngihlangana nabo tinswalo, and namhlanje abotinswalo bagcwele nakulesi stadium. Omunye nomunye uthi yebo yimina utinswalo. Abanye bathi mina ngubaba wakatinswalo. Abanye bathi ngugogo wakatinswalo. Abanye bathi ngu-anti wakatinswalo. Ayikho intombi ethandiwa kakhulu ukudlula utinswalo namhlanje. Nalaba bama-opposition party bayamthanda utinswalo noma bangamthandi ngoba ukhona nakubo. Yesterday we had the occasion to meet many tinswalos. I will just relate a few of them that we met because they are representative of exactly what the progress we have brought about has meant to the lives of many people, young and old. Untombazana wakaHlatshwayo uthi yena i-National Youth Development Agency yamnceda wathola iskill. Namhlanje urana ibusiness yakhe. She has her own business. ugugu intombazane encanyana nje namhlanje she's a train driver ushayela isitimela esinama-coach ayi-11 leyo msebenzi wawenzwa amabhunu kuphela namhlanje a young black woman ugugu is driving a train ngotinswana uMakhazi lo culayo naye wayezile izolo wathi nami president I am Tinswalo. My music is now sung all over the world. And we celebrate the many other musicians in our country who introduce many genres. Okwaito, namhlanje amapiano, abantu bajayivela ipiano eNew York, eLagos, eNigeria, nakuphi, because of the doors that have been opened by this ANC government. Yes, namhlanje uNaomi from Ramatlabama in Mafikeng in Northwest, she's a pilot. Udriver, ushayela, a 747 ibhanoyi elikhulu. She is flying big planes today because of what the African National Congress-led government did for her. Ubongeka wasemahlabathini, she's an architect and she's an employer. She employs a number of young people. Simon Chuma is an air traffic controller. He controls the skies in our country. Before 1994, that job was only the preserve of white male South Africans. Unontogozo, she's running her agriculture business. She's selling her products, the agriculture, to many big shops. And she's only 30-something years old. Ulebuhang Dludlu, she's producing inkuku. She's now going to be producing 50,000 chickens for every 35 days. Usazi, she's part of the LGBTQA community and is pleased for the progressive policies of our government. Utuli is a domestic worker. She has been all over the world. Uti lao matuba were opened by this ANC-led government. She's been to the United States ukuyofundisa abasebenzi base-America ngamalungelo abasebenzi abasemakhaya, se-domestic worker. Yes, Utuli is also happy about the introduction of the national minimum wage. Eyenze ukuthi 6 million workers must see their wages going up and not work for starvation wages. Umbali is a chief navigation officer. She navigates big ships in the wide ocean. She's been to all the continents in the world, and she is a captain of a ship. Ugugu silungile, ugogo silungile, ugogo. She runs an NGO that helps our people and employs more than 200 people. Unonkosi Zungu is an electrical engineer working in our railway infrastructure. Yena no Mangu, they are working to rebuild the railways, the trains, and the corridors. Umluleki Zazini is working also with people in our communities, supporting people who are living with AIDS and making sure that they take their antiretrovirals. Through the work that they do, they make sure that our people are alive. Jacob Pinar a white Afrikaner, supports the policies of the ANC that have made us to get where we are, the policies of empowerment. And he has attracted many other Afrikaners to come and join the African National Congress. UPRIA supports the work that is being done by the Logistics Working Group. Ukawegas, she is involved in economic emancipation. And Megan Adonis, she's visually impaired. Agaboni, Kotwa, she sees the progress that has been made by the policies of the African National Congress. And she wants us to continue to pass legislation that will empower disabled people. Professor Maiwashe, he is involved in agriculture, and he wants us to continue educating young people. Imran, an accountant, is a campaigner for the rights of the Palestinians. And he applauds the South African government for the stance we have taken in making sure that we support the Palestinians. Our sporting heroes have exploded on the world stage from the very first Rugby World Cup victory in 1995, and we are the only country in the whole world that has won 4 Rugby Webb Ellis Cups. There is no other, meaning that in South Africa ihambela phambili, amanye amazwe ayathanda noma wathandi. Our Bafana has excelled once again, and our sporting people in tennis and many other disciplines continue to make us proud. But we cannot take all this progress for granted. We need to do more and better together. This is our plan for the next 5 years. In the next 5 years, but also looking to 30 years, in the next 5 years, we have the following plan. Priority number 1 is to put South Africa to work. We have a jobs plan. While job creation has shown positive growth since the end of COVID, the unemployment rate in our country continues to be a real problem, particularly among young people, and yes, also for those who are over 35 and more. Ngoba nabo asibashiyi emva, nabo labo sifuna ukuthi amapolicy ethu aqondane nabo. There is no shortage of work to be done to make South Africa a better place. In every street, in every community and village, our people are ready to work, and they are willing to contribute to social and economic development. And through public and social employment programs, industrialization, and the support for small enterprises and cooperatives, we can create jobs at a much faster pace. And that's precisely what we want to do. Over the next 5 years, the ANC will implement a jobs plan. Iplan yemisebenzi, with the first pillar being a massified public employment plan by creating and sustaining 2.5 million work opportunities, delivering public goods and services. Yebo, we have the experience of creating millions of job opportunities, and also the experience of creating decent work. A combination of the two is going to be part of our jobs plan. This includes imisebenzi for labo graduates, those abanama degree, abanama diploma, abangasebenzi okwamanje. Nabo sizobakhela imisebenzi. Recently nizwile Minister of Health ethi labo abangodokotela, the doctors who are unemployed are all going to be employed. Bazayithola imisebenzi. We are going to continue also recruiting 10,000 yamaphoyisa ukuthi sikwazi ukuvikeleka. The Department of Home Affairs has set its mind on employing 10,000 of people who are well versed in IT as well. So we are going to continue creating jobs, real jobs, so that we can bring down the unemployment rate. We will continue to support small enterprises and entrepreneurs and cooperatives, especially emalokshi nasemakaya, in our villages. We want our villages to become centers of economic activity in agriculture, yes, in entrepreneurship. We must see our people active also in our townships, yes, trading, making things. Yes, through that we will provide an additional 1 million work opportunities. We will increase support for, yes, those who are involved in business, and we will also ensure that they become strengthened. We will continue to promote and monitor employment equity to ensure that black people, women, and persons with disabilities are represented in the public and private sector, in the professions, and in the artisanal sectors toward the growth of a vibrant, non-racial and non-sexist middle strata. Priority number 2 is to build our industries to achieve an inclusive economy, to deepen the transformation of our economy. The ANC will drive industrial growth, innovation, and job creation. We will focus on industrialization and re-industrialization. We are the most industrialized country on the African continent. We've got a very good foundation. We just need to ensure that this important pillar is strengthened, and we will therefore support localization and labor-intensive industries. And there are new industries that we are going to create. We can already see the new industries, the hydrogen industry. We can already see industries that are driven by new technology. Many of our young people are already creators and innovators when it comes to new technology, and we need to support them. We will expand our Black Industrialist Program to reach more than 2,000 beneficiaries. We've already hit a 1,000 Black Industrialist target. We have taken deliberate action to make sure that we create Black industrialists who are building factories, who are building engineering factories, who are making things for exports, who are already scouring the whole world, exporting products that they make. This, comrades, is a new development in our country. As black people, we were relegated to the back. Apartheid used to prevent black people by law, by convention, by regulation, from being manufacturers, for being creators. Today, this ANC government has done so, but in the next 5 years, we plan to even do more and create 1,000 more black industrialists. Our industrial strategy will involve targeted master plans to revitalize and diversify the manufacturing sector. No society can prosper without investing in the capacity of its citizens. And no country can prosper without seeking to have an industrial policy that is going to focus on certain industries and incentivize the key players in those industries. That is what we are going to do with a view of creating more and more jobs. The ANC will improve our national skills plan and reskill workers as part of our industrial strategy. Our strategy will also meet the global challenge of climate change. A balanced, just transition to a cleaner and greener future will lead to new jobs. We already see that happening in a number of our provinces. In Northern Cape is already leading in that. In Mpumalanga is going to follow. So will other provinces as well. We are on the march. In the next 5 years, we are going to see billions and billions of rands being invested in our provinces to create more jobs, to ensure we have growing markets for our manufactured goods. We will increase exports to global and continental markets, utilizing the Africa Continental Free Trade Area. Comrades, Africa is now open for us. We have opened a market of 1.3 billion consumers on the African continent. And our companies are now going through the continent. Our companies are selling goods and services in many African countries. Prior to 1994, South Africa could not do that because it was a hated country. Today, our country is loved. The doors of trade are open to many countries, not only on our continent, but in the world. We are now exporting our oranges to Europe in tons and tons. Our meat is going to China. It is going to the Middle East. Yes, our cattle and our sheep are being exported all over. This has only been made possible by the ANC-led government. And in the next 5 years, we are going to increase that trade. As a central tenet of our strategy, we will continue, comrades, to fix our constraints in energy, in transport and logistics sectors. There are important network industries and strategic assets that are critical to our industrialization and growth and development. And that is what we are fixing right now. Yes, we are going through a challenging time, but you know what? the ANC-led government has faced many challenges, and we have always succeeded. We have always emerged on top of those challenges that we are facing. We are investing in infrastructure, especially in energy infrastructure, in roads, in railways, and in critical infrastructure as well, to make sure that there is meaningful economic growth. Investment in energy in particular is necessary for us to end load shedding and ensure a secure supply of energy. That is our mission, and that is what we are going to be focusing our attention on. Now, to finance industrialization and economic development, we will continue to transform our financial sector so that it provides affordable loans. Yes, we will continue to invest in industrialization. We will make sure that our financial institutions are more inclusive. We will better align monetary policy and trade policy to support job creation and industrialization. Now, to ensure industrialization promotes inclusive growth, we will integrate small businesses, cooperative, township businesses, and yes, we will make sure that they are well integrated so that they can benefit from a financial sector that needs to support them. We will accelerate land reform and redistribution to reduce asset inequality and protect security of tenure. Yes, so that we can boost food security and agricultural production, as well as rural and urban development, as well as housing. Priority number 3, we will tackle the high cost of living. As it is now, the cost of living for our people has gone up. Comrade Godongwana, when he was in the Western Cape at Gugulethu, uhlangane nomunye ugogo. Lo gogo wamkhomba nge-walking stick yakhe. Wathi, Godongwana, awukhuphule imali ye-pension ngoba i-cost of living has gone up. Minister of Finance responded to that message. Wayikhuphula imali ye-pension ukuthi ugogo akwazi ukuthi yebo athenge izinto in a much better way. Yes, we will be focusing on the cost of living. We will take steps to make everyday life more affordable for workers, the unemployed, and yes, the middle class as well, who are currently suffering under the burden of high interest rates. Yes, people are finding that the food costs more, and housing and healthcare, as well as energy. We will prioritize food security, including VAT exemption on essential items, and support for community and home gardens, and act against price fixing in all sectors. We will keep a hawk's eye on those who fix prices with a view of profiteering from poor people by just making prices to escalate on a continuous basis after fixing them in collusion. We will maintain and expand subsidize basic services like water, housing for the poor, and the indigent policies at local level. We will continue to roll out rooftop solar for indigent households. We are rolling out our rooftop as it is now, and this is helping a number of poor people. This is being done by the ANC-led government and by no other. Masihlale siyazi leyo nto. We will strengthen health services and implement the national health insurance to make healthcare affordable for all. Yes, the national health insurance bill is on my desk, and ngishilo ukuthi ngisafuna ipen yokusayina le bill. Kwangathi ngiyayibona ipen enhle ezokwazi ukuthi ngisayine le bill. As required by law, we will continue increasing the national minimum wage. We do not have a living wage yet, but the national minimum wage is continuing to increase year by year, and we will continue to monitor its implementation by employers. We will support income support through existing social grants, and we will utilize the 350 Rand grant as a mechanism towards phasing in the basic income support. Njengoba ngishilo, i-350 izawuqhubeka. Futhi, Minister of Finance usebenza no Minister of Social Development. Bayayibheka kahle, bayishebile hantle, bantse bayisheba bayilebella hore e ka iswa hodimo ka tsela efeng na. Ho tla ba jwalo ka hobane 350 ena e ba bang ba ne ba sa e batle, abanye ba e bathi le 350 ni khiphelani ngoba nenza ukuthi abantu bethu babe dependent. Le 350 iyasebenza, le 350 inceda umphakathi. Abanye bayayisebenzisa le 350 bathenga ukudla ngayo, abanye bayayisebenzisa bayofuna imisebenzi, abanye le 350 bayayisebenzisa ukuyoqala amabhizinisi wabo. Yebo, bakhona abanye bayothenga ibhiya ngayo, naloko kulungile ngoba abantu bakithi, akithi kunjalo. Yebo, empa 350 yena yona e tla isebedisang hore re ahe basic income grant ha re ntse re tswella pele. Sazwino re ko shuma na banji uri re setse zwavhuḓi uri hey 350 re de shuma han ons is besig om hierdie 350 rand mooi te kyk, want ons wil hê ons mense moet beter lewe. Ons wil hê ons mense wat nie werk het nie moet bietjie beter lewe solang as hulle werk soek. Priority number 4, we will invest in our people. We will continue investing in South Africa's people by improving access to quality education and health, expanding the use of science and technology, and ensuring that all people have decent housing and basic services. We will continue to ensure that South Africans live long and they have healthy lives, and that all people, regardless of their income, receive quality health care. We will continue to overhaul our health system by continuing to invest in the building and maintenance of our hospitals, of our clinics, and our other health facilities, as well as providing relevant training for healthcare professionals. We will develop a single electronic health record that will enable a seamless experience for all users of public and private healthcare. We will, as I said, implement the National Health Insurance, and yes, the NHI will be implemented in phases, as it is an important project in the lives of our people. We will give every child the best start in life by introducing 2 years of compulsory early childhood development and ensuring proper resourcing and support for ECD facilities in all communities. Leyo ngifuna simamele kahle. Ena ke ibuhlokwa hahulu ngoba early child development yiyo ezowenza ukuthi abantwana bethu uma basezobangena isikolo babe sebe ready. They should be ready to go into school well prepared. Other countries start their young children at 9 months. Tina City, we want to have 2 years, early years of compulsory education. The investment in early childhood development will support further measures in the foundation phase to enhance reading with meaning and improving numeracy. We have seen how the matric results improved for the first time in the history of our country. 82.9% of matriculants passed their matric, and KZN lasikhona showed great improvement. Siyaningoma nina abantu balapha KZN ukuthi nikwazile ukuthi ni-improve imfundo yabantwana. To prepare young people for the economy of the future, we will increase enrollment in maths and science and expand coding and robotics and technology education. And to address the crisis of young people, not in education, not in employment and training, we will reduce the number of learners who do not finish school and provide second chance opportunities to pass matric through community and TVET colleges. We will continue the work we have already started to further reduce the cost of data to enable training of young people and old people to develop and operate new technologies. Sifuna i-price data zehle, because in other countries, data is much cheaper than it is here in South Africa. We will continue to put pressure on the telco companies to reduce the price of data so that connectivity throughout the country must be better. We will also increase the availability of service sites with basic services closer to economic centers for our people, especially women, yes, and older people, our military veterans and disabled people. At the same time, we will continue to upgrade and formalize informal settlements and provide them with basic services. Wherever we go, when we meet our people who have received the 4.7 million houses that we have built, we see how proud they are. We see them as people whose dignity has been restored. We see how pleased they are. And this ANC government will continue to support our people so that they can get houses. We will improve that by giving them service sites, because many of our people say, give us service sites and we can build our own houses. That is how we are also going to respond going forward. We will give national and provincial governments more responsibilities to support municipalities that are struggling to provide reliable basic services. Where our municipalities struggle to provide clean water, where they are struggling to collect refuse, we as the national government will intervene to properly provide the service, to build maintenance, to build capacity and complete water infrastructure projects. Water is a big problem in our country, and already the national government has made it its own task to begin intervening in various areas where our local governments are struggling and failing. And national government will intervene in support of local government. That is what we are going to be doing in the next 5 years. Sezau, Kuba, and we will improve where there have been weaknesses, because in some local government areas, it has been the responsibility of local government, and they have been failing. They have been failing because they don't have all the resources, and national is now going to help them. We will strengthen the role of families in supporting both young and older citizens, with special attention to the responsibility of raising their children. We will strengthen the quality of services provided to older people, including community-based residential care facilities, and afford them the necessary consideration and respect by society. Our task is to enhance social cohesion and continue to build our nation. That is the revolutionary task of the African National Congress. Priority number 5 is to defend democracy and advance our freedom. Over the next 5 years, we must continue to promote and defend the rights of all South Africans against racism, against sexism, against gender-based violence, against homophobia, against discrimination, and other intolerances. This means that we must remain resolute in advancing the rights and the dignity of children and older persons and people living with disability or disabled people, the LGBTQAI+, the young, and yes, continue the fight for women's emancipation to create a non-sexist society. We must recognize that rampant crime, drugs, and organized crime and gender-based violence continue to be one of the challenges that we're facing, including theft of infrastructure implements and extortion and gangsterism, that these pose a threat to our freedom and the dignity of all South Africans. Working together, we will take the necessary steps to ramp up the war on crime and make our communities safe. We have already been taking action, demonstrable action, in dealing with the criminals in our country, and we want to ramp up the effort. We have to treat corruption as a crime against our people and improve public accountability, investigation and prosecution capabilities, and there must now be consequence management. Accountability must go alongside with consequence management. Uma umoshile, kube khona into ezoyenzwa ngawe. Ungabi umosha nje, bese uyayekwa. Yebo, there will be consequence management if we do not do what we are required to do. We will build a social compact against corruption with law enforcement and our citizens. And we will launch public awareness campaigns to educate and encourage reporting and support reporting of crimes and support community involvement and whistleblowing initiatives and protect those who blow the whistle. We must build a capable and developmental state, and we will reorganize the way government interacts with our people, and we will rebuild and improve local government. We will also professionalize, yes, the public service based on the Batupele principles and strengthen cooperative governance through the district development model. Lapa eKZN ibizwa sukuma sakhe. That's what we will focus our attention on. We must reinforce the contributions of arts, heritage, languages, culture, sports, and the creative sector more generally to nation building, to social cohesion and national development. We will support our artists. We will make sure that the artists who are raising South Africa's flag internationally are supported. Yes, we will stand behind them as we are proud of them. As I said earlier, we are the one country that is spreading our South African culture throughout the world. Bayibiza is soft power. The power is soft. We are spreading it. People, if you go around the world and Africa, they sing our songs. They sing the songs that have been crafted by our artists. Our artists are winning the Grammy Award overseas, and they are excelling in an incredible way. We will continue to support them. Priority number 6, we will build a better Africa and a better world. The ANC will continue to play an active role in promoting peace, development, and justice globally. Over the next 5 years, we will continue to support and operationalize the Africa Continental Free Trade Area to to increase our trade, and that will going to enhance our manufacturing within our continent. We will promote peace and security and the development of SADC, the Southern African Development Community, which binds together our 14 countries in the region, and beyond, to advance the success and the consolidation of the African Union. Yes, we will continue to advance our solidarity with the people of Palestine who are being slaughtered through a genocide right now. We will continue to stand with the Palestinians. Bayatanda noma batande, we are going to stand with them. We will continue to pledge our solidarity with Western Sahara, with Cuba, and many other countries as well. We will continue to strengthen the voice of developing countries at the UN and other places. Yes, we will continue to strengthen BRICS, the non-aligned movement. Our transformation journey must be led, comrades, by honest and dedicated leaders. The challenges of our struggle for a better life for all are difficult and diverse. Our transformation requires honest and dedicated leaders. We have on several occasions stated publicly that as the African National Congress, yes, because we are an organization that is leading society and that is transforming the lives of our people, there have been times when we have misstepped, where we have made mistakes, where we have taken a step backwards. But this happens with an organization that is working. The ANC iyasebenza, ayilalanga, ayihlalanga phansi, iya phambili sonke isikhathi. Nalabo abakhonkothayo bayazi ukuthi kukhonkotwa imoto ehambayo. I-ANC iyahamba, ayimanga ndawonye. It's not standing in one place. And as a result, yes, there will be some missteps. Sizamisa istep ngesinye isikhathi. Kodwa, we are forever moving forward. Now the ANC is working hard to restore your trust and confidence in us as the leader of society and the leader of fundamental socio-economic transformation in our society. There is no organization that has the experience and the knowledge and the leadership and the capability and the ability like the African National Congress. Bayathanda noma bathandi. That's why, City, we are the only organization that can take South Africa forward. If we have learned anything, we have learned from our mistakes, but we have also learned from our experience. We are an organization that has been led by giants. Giants, Nelson Mandela, onke lamanye amaqembu. Let them point out the leaders who are gigantic who they have had. They can't even count more than 4. Tina, we count from John Langalebale Ledube right through to Mandela, to O.R. Tambo, to Moses Mabhida. We count them all. And they have imparted their experience on us. They have imparted their knowledge on us. They have given us the capability to be able to serve the people of South Africa. And that is what the African National Congress is going to do. At our two last conferences, the ANC vowed to address society's challenges and to serve the people of South Africa with discipline and integrity. The ANC is committed to developing and, where necessary, correcting its members. We are an organizations of hundreds of thousands of members, and we are supported by millions and millions of people. Yes, where our members make mistakes, we will correct them. We will make sure that they do the right thing. Yes, we are renewing ourselves. We are in renewal mode. The momentum that we have started to renew the organization is underway. We are becoming better. We are adopting new methods of working. Our public representatives are being interviewed rigorously by an electoral committee. They are asking us questions about our commitment, and those that we are going to put forward for elections are people who will have gone through the eye of the needle. And yes, there are people who will be subscribing to values and principles that have always guided the African National Congress. So there is no place for those who are careerists, for those who will want to be corrupt. Yes, there is no place as well for those who want to be factional. Labo abafuna ukudonsela eduze, they don't belong here in the ANC. And abanye sebayazikhipha ngokwabo sesizibonele. So thina ke, we are a renewed ANC, and there will be no compromise on the fundamental matters of the discipline and the integrity of the African National Congress. In this election, the ANC is ensuring that our candidates represent the finest leadership capabilities, drawing from the lessons that we have learned from the past. And all leaders, once elected, will be held to high standards of accountability and must be accountable through rigorous monitoring and evaluation. We will ensure that our candidates who we are going to put forward work in a focused and disciplined manner and address the pressing challenges facing our people in every community. And every public servant will, in the spirit of Batupili, have to work hard. Kuzawusetshenzwa kule administration ezayo. We have made all the preparatory work, put in place the right pillars. Kutla sebetsiwa, kutla tiriwa, kudoshumiwa, kutla usetenjwa. Sizawuphangela ngempela kule administration ezayo. Yes, we are already taking measures to make sure ukuthi we have the best. So, comrades, as we move forward, we are going to make sure that we deploy comrades who are capable. ICADA development policy yethu is about appointing suitable and qualified people who share our transformation vision. Asinofaka abantu abazofuna ukusidonsela eceleni. I-development Data development policy yethu, we put in people who share our vision, because there are many people who have different visions. We will make sure that our deployment policy ensures that, yes, the policies and the vision of the ANC are followed as mandated by our Constitution as well as the Constitution of the Republic. That is why the judgment in the Gauteng High Court concluded there is nothing unconstitutional about a political party influencing the policy direction of a government, including the appointment of senior personnel to public service, so long as the public service is protected against being misused for partisan purposes. So, labo ke abakhuluma nge-deployment policy, mabalethe ama-minutes wabo. Ngoba nabo ama-minutes wabo siyawafuna, because they are hypocrites. They do exactly what they are accusing the ANC of doing. Thina ke sithi i-deployment policy yethu is directed and has been directed at transforming South Africa. Today, years ago, National Chairperson wethu washo, what years ago we did not have a single black Director General. Today, we don't only have black Directors General, we also have female Directors General. Years ago, we didn't have a single judge on the High Court. Today, we have a Chief Justice who is black, like you and me. We have a female Deputy Chief Justice. All that has happened because of the transformation policies of the African National Congress. And we are going to continue, because we must transform this country. In the next 5 years, we will invest rigorously in the training of our deployees and our public servants. Yes, including our cabinet ministers, our MECs nabo bazongena isikolo. They are going to ensure, we are going to ensure that they do subject themselves to training. Yes, in conclusion, building on the foundations of the past 3 decades, we are poised to challenge the challenges, to address and tackle the challenges ahead as we approach 2030. The ANC comrades remains committed and resolute to pursue what I've been talking about, the transformation agenda, in order to build a better life for all and leaving no one behind. We will do so in a manner that will ensure that we celebrate the century of the Freedom Charter in the next 30 years. The legacies of apartheid, colonialism, and patriarchy, which still loom large in South Africa, will be a matter of history. Our confidence rests on that. We have achieved the impossible together. Our biggest victories we have won together. We have worked together to win these victories. Our deepest sorrows we have felt together as a people. And our biggest strides, we have made them together. The biggest odds, we have defied together. And so today, we can say with certainty, we will do better, we will do more, and we will do it faster, working together. And that is why we say, let us all work together to go and make sure there's a decisive victory for the African National Congress. Leyo victory is coming. Bazoyibona abantu on the 29th of May, when the results are declared. That is why I said, my show me. My show me. Niyabasabana. Niyabasabana. Mandla. Forward to victory, forward. Forward to the ANC victory, forward. Mandla. Yabonga, comrades.
And there you have it, the ANC's 2024 Election Manifesto delivered there by ANC President Cyril Ramaphosa. Let me just get immediate reaction from Mzwayambete and of course Dr. Ranesh Doraj. So what did you hear that was new?
Well, I wish I knew what was new. All I heard was things that have been said before. I would want to hear the actual plans, perhaps outside of the actual plans. I would really want to hear the actual implementation of that which they've spoken about. I mean, as the President was speaking, we went through the manifesto of 2019. So many of the things that the President spoke about are there. Then the question is, how are they going to do it differently this time around? So yes, there is the pressing question in South Africa. The job is actually the most important question. Ending corruption, investing in infrastructure, that is very important in the country right now. The question, Doc and Sakina, how do they go about dealing with that practically?
And if we unpack that, starting with the jobs question, Dr. Ranesh, again, we've heard it from the other two parties that we've covered as well. The ANC is saying 2.5 million, but job opportunities, what's the difference?
I think here we are talking about quality jobs, but in the case of the ANC's manifesto, those job opportunities are notably expanded public works job opportunities. So those jobs don't last long. It's around 3 to 6 months. There's a small payment involved. Obviously, people are getting the experience. But I think here we are looking for quality jobs. And I think the ANC president was very scant, very unclear about that. To create those kind of jobs, you need investment. You need investment. How does one invest in a country when you cannot guarantee electricity, firstly? Then you cannot guarantee water supply. Those two things are basic essentials. So to attract investment, attract interest from businesses, even small businesses, big businesses, you need to get the basics correct first. And I think that's where the ANC and obviously some of the other parties are not not addressing. Those issues need to be tackled first. Like Mzwai is saying, tell us how. We've heard all of this political rhetoric. Obviously, it's election year. Politicians will say a lot of things. They will make lots of grand promises, but tell us how. Give us deadlines, give us targets. Those things, I think, we did not hear from the ANC president in his address today.
Speaking of, the conditions to create those opportunities in Eskom, where was Eskom in all of this? Because that obviously is a key factor in order to create the relevant conditions.
I suspect, as part of advice, as he was preparing for this speech, was to say, maybe let's not say much on load shedding, because almost every opportunity that the president has got, he has stressed that load shedding is something that needs to be dealt with. So I guess he doesn't want to sound like a broken record. But that is quite key, because if you are talking about growth, economy and creating jobs, you need stable energy. Yeah. Stable energy will come from Eskom that is functional, Eskom that provides electricity non-stop. So if you are not able to then handle that, so we know obviously those are some of the areas they are looking at. What you said was to say the timeline. You know what I would like to hear from a speech like this, to say in the next 5 years, when we get given power again, so in 2 years we would have ended load shedding. In 3 years we would have employed so many people, because you are able to then go back to say, if we are not able to achieve that which we promised, these were the reasons.
But the reality is they can't.
Yes.
So you cannot put those sort of time frames in place, knowing full well that you will not achieve them. Because the president did mention the rollout of solar panels, for RDP houses. So how does that work again? Because we don't even produce solar panels in South Africa.
And I think, that's a very expensive process, by the way, rolling out solar panels throughout the country. If you look at the past year, there was a tax incentive given to households for installing solar capability. If my numbers are correct, I think 5 gigawatts of solar electricity was generated, just to help alleviate the situation that Eskom faces in generating electricity. But Sakina, just to go back to what the president was saying, I think for me 2 things stood out very boldly. Obviously, he put the ANC at the center of everything. He says the ANC ended apartheid. The ANC ended colonialism. You need to thank us, and the only way you can thank us is obviously by giving us an extended term, another 5 years at the helm of this country. Under the ANC, life has become better. We've provided superior healthcare, jobs, education. We've reduced poverty. We've tripled the economy since 1994. 60% of our budget since 1994 goes to socio-economic programs. Today, South Africa is a much better, vibrant democracy because, and only because of the ANC. Obviously, we have done a lot, but more has to be done. I think that was the central message of the ANC, when the president did speak.
I think what the president sought to say, basically in this manifesto launch, was to say, we are aware of the difficulties that we've gone through. But please remember that which we have done for you. The reason why you are even able to point out some of the issues that are affecting you is because we have enabled that possibility. And then he sought to tap into the past history and the past glory, of course, acknowledging somehow that there have been challenges. And he says this because he knows South Africans are much more open in terms of who they can vote for now. I mean, way back in 1994, yes, there were different parties, but realistically, you had very, very few parties that were an option. Right now, there is an option. So he used this opportunity really to speak about the achievements of the ANC in the past 30 years, not only from 2019. And he is trying to obviously project an image of a country that is working. He is saying, don't just look at the next 5 years, look at the next 30 years. So what does that tell you? That tells you that even if, let's say, you give us the mandate for the next 5 years and somehow we don't do well, we did tell you that the project that we are building is bigger. So the context is quite big. Yes.
Yeah. So it was interesting because I thought the president was vacillating there between being humble and acknowledging failures, but also being almost arrogant about achievements and what is still to come. He spoke there, for example, it was a tacit admission of the failure of local government on the water issue, for example, talking about how national government will need to step in. We've seen that with the roads where the government had to come and step in to fix potholes. So how do we see that sort of admission? Because through the eye of a needle as well, talking about training, through the eye of the needle, the ANC's very own document speaks about training, continuous training of their candidates. So, Mzwai?
One of the things that the president spoke about, which I think they now need to actualize in terms of doing, they're talking about investing in infrastructure. If the ANC dips below 50 this election, they must know what would be the difficulties. Because people are seeing the infrastructure decay in front of them. People are seeing the challenges happening in front of them. So if then you talk about local government, but you don't invest in local government in terms of the capacitating it properly, so you'll have the kind of results that we are having. I mean, look at the state of our roads. Yes, there are those that are good, but look at the state of our roads. Look at the state of our municipalities. So those are infrastructure projects that are very visible to the eye, to the people. They deal with them throughout. So train people, skill people, deal with that. So that would be another big challenge.
But also the way we couch that, allows for a lot of room for confusion and misinterpretation. Because if you think about it, for example, some of the capital projects that happen at municipal level are actually done through national competence. They are not local competencies. But then at the same time, you have local competencies that are also, way beyond acceptable standard, below acceptable standard. So, why aren't we speaking clearly to people so they understand what the failures are and perhaps where we need to improve?
Sakina, I think, the tragedy of this entire thing is that people on the ground do not know the difference between national government, provincial government and local government competencies. So people don't really know, this is the responsibility, roads is the responsibility of local government. People don't see that. Voters don't see that. I think where the change has to happen, I'm kind of glad. It's about time that the ANC president at this manifesto launch, he brought in that local government aspect. He says national will intervene. Normally you get the provincial administration, provincial government intervening, section 139, putting those municipalities under administration. But right now, he's making that firm commitment to say that we will intervene. Going back to the SG's report, the Secretary General's report of the ANC, I think it was back in 2016, where the SG correctly diagnosed, he says, the ANC's weakest point is not national, is not provincial, it is local government. So they have acknowledged, they have confessed, they have admitted that local government is where the problem is. And I'm kind of glad that in 2024, before a major election, they've kind of admitted that this is where attention needs to be, diverted to. And also very importantly, I think what also needs to change is, if you look at the amounts, the millions or billions that is allocated to local government on a yearly basis, is just under 10 to 11%. It's not more than that. Municipalities, whether you're rich, poor, an established town, an established metro, you are allowed to fend for yourself. You need to collect rates and taxes from those ratepayers. So I think it's about time that the ANC actually intervened, and the president said so very clearly earlier on. That local government allocation has to change. Many provincial government cut from provincial government.
They've been talking about this. You hit the nail on the head from the 2016 report. It went further. They actually discussed, the strength of their cadres, where they acknowledged that their strongest cadres are actually deployed at national level, and perhaps this is something that needs to be looked at. But nothing has changed since then, right?
Certainly. I mean, I think, this is an election that they are fighting. So we're speaking about them as post 29 May. So we don't know what's going to happen. But I think what the ANC needs to do, I mean, they are the governing party at the moment. So if they win the elections, so it's about time they start implementing some of the great programs that they have. That which we are speaking about now, it's there.
Yeah.
So we have been going through some of what they had been promising. But then you ask yourself, what has been difficult from implementing it? Is it because, in fact, that's the reason, I guess, the DA ended up pursuing that case. Never mind that I think it's also blowing in
somewhat.
their face because
Yeah.
somehow. Because what they were basically saying was to say, as the ANC, the reason why you are failing to implement your own policies is because you're putting people who are not fit for purpose or who are not qualified. So clearly, if the ANC is to correct that, as you are saying, Doc, that they are now speaking about local government, they need to put people who are really qualified. You can't just talk about skilled people yet at the implementation of a project. So the results are different.
Final word.
Sakina, you know, it's all good and well to say all these wonderful flowery things, but how do you hold another comrade accountable? Comrades are elected at regional executive committees, provincial executive committees, branch executive committees. How do you hold those people accountable? When you win an REC, you're the chair, you're the secretary of the PEC, you automatically qualify to possibly be a premier, possibly get an MEC's position, you know, on the cabinet. You know, how do you hold those people accountable when you have that power at party level? So I think that's where the disjuncture is. The ANC needs to address those matters first, and then all the other corrections will automatically, you know, fall into place.
So just to sum up what was said here this afternoon, 6 priority areas, which is interesting. EFF had 7. The DA had 7, the ANCs had 6. So here are the 6. And the priority number 1, put South Africa to work. Priority number 2, build our industries for an inclusive economy. And then the third one is tackle the high cost of living. The fourth is to invest in people. And then the fifth, defend democracy and advance freedom. And the sixth one is to build a better Africa and a better world. These are the 6 priorities for the African National Congress. And as you heard from the ANC President Cyril Ramaphosa, they want another 5-year extension of the mandate given by South Africa, but they're looking beyond that. 30 years, another 30 years is what they are asking for. Mzwai Mbeche, Dr. Ranesh Dorach, it's been a pleasure. Bongiwe as well earlier with us, Bongiwe Zwane, and of course the rest of the team. With that, it's back to Auckland Park. Over to you, Liesel.